Welcome to another episode of the EMS Wizard Podcast. This is Mark Casey. We have the entire crew with us on this episode with a very special guest. Wait, this is weird. Can you guys hear me? Am I muted?
No,
Nobody's
hear you just fine, Mark.
interrupting me.
Hey, Mark, they're being normal tonight. There's a problem with this.
I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
I'm ready.
I got it.
Mark will not be with us.
It was never really his show anyway.
Yeah, he's
No,
a guest.
we're just guests
Correct.
on your show.
Wow,
Correct.
that was a whole new experience. So, wow, I don't even know what to say. I'm just completely caught off guard. I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do with my hands. But we have another really awesome episode for everyone. We have a very special guest, Miss Carlie Dodson, the CEO of North State Medical Transport. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. We really appreciate you being able to join us. So one thing, I need the rundown on what North State Medical Transport is. Just a general 30,000 foot view what North State Medical Transport is.
Absolutely. So North State Medical Transport, we have our headquarters right in Raleigh, North Carolina. Have been incorporated since 2004. My father actually started the business after being a paramedic at Wake County for about 15, 20 years. Today, fast forward almost 20 years later, we are specializing in ALS interfacility transfers across North Carolina, BLS discharges, BLS transfers, do a lot of special event medical standby in the central region of North Carolina. We actually have a rodeo next weekend, which we're pretty excited about. And we do mutual aid for 911 for our neighboring counties that need assistance here and there when maybe they've hit critical low staffing. So we assist with that as well. And of course, Stone White, our awesome ambulance ops director, is working on critical care because we are at the specialty care transport level right now for under OEMS. And so we're trying to dive into the critical care sector shortly. And then lastly, back in 2021, when we needed to, we diversified into hospital at home and mobile integrated healthcare. So that's kind of a overlook of North State.
That's a big basket of stuff.
It's a lot.
That's a whole lot.
Like
of
all
stuff.
the things, basically. Yeah.
It's a lot.
This is like the model in some other states. So that's what's fascinating about this to me is North Carolina being large. We're diverse in North Carolina, but largely I would say the majority is a local government based EMS type. So but you're living proof that there's room for everyone at the table, and to hear all these things that are done, I think that's not only unique, but it's probably well needed. I guess you find yourself pretty busy. How many counties are you serving?
Yeah, so right now we are in 14 counties across North Carolina, the most western being Caldwell County out in the mountain area, and then as east as Wayne County, Goldsboro, Kinston area.
See how she said west? West wasn't Raleigh, y'all. See, west was even west of Raleigh.
Oh, yeah. Raleigh's almost east, honestly. I'd say Guilford County is more central.
Just west of 95.
Yeah,
Are you testing
doesn't.
our ability, John Wilson? You
Smells
testing
like
our geography?
We're not
smog
west.
there.
So yeah, so we're all over the place, but we transport across county lines. We out of Wilmington area, out of Asheville, out of Charlotte. So while we're franchised in those 14 counties, we're able to pick up and drop off anywhere across North Carolina as long as we cross those county lines. So
cool. Well, how did you get your start? Like, what did it start for you? An interest to be EMS at all? I mean, you're saying Pops was running the organization. I had the good fortune of meeting your dad back in my Franklin County days about 10 years ago. So I knew him well enough to shake his hand.
And so I have no idea how I got here. It makes no sense. I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this industry. My whole time at ECU, when I was doing undergrad and grad school in the MBA, I worked at the Marriott in Greenville at the front desk, and I had every intention upon graduating that I was going to go work Marriott corporate and do pricing strategy and and basically development of their strategies. And, in 2023, when I was finishing my grad degree, my mom ended up passing away from cancer. And at that time, there was a marketing position that opened up at North State, again, my dad's business. And so, at a time when I needed to, be back in the area, it just worked out. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll come do this marketing. It's like my first real job with business, and just get a good feel for marketing. And then I'll figure out what I want to do for the long term after I do that. And here I am 10 years later and a global pandemic later, and here we are. And I don't have any plans on leaving. So that's kind of how I got here. But yeah, my brother works with me every day. My father, of course, still owns the company along with other partners.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Carlie, that sounds like either a blessing or a curse, that family business. But I wanted to touch, going from working the front desk to, running a company, worldwide, global domination. But we talk about customer service, the customer service revival when we're doing MS Officer.
Yeah.
And would you say that there's in your job right now, I would imagine there's a lot of customer service and maybe some lessons you learned from that front desk experience.
Absolutely. I could spend hours talking about crazy scenarios that happened when I worked front desk at a Marriott. And when I think back to those days and how I've been able to utilize those skills I learned now, we have 15 to 16,000 transports a year. And of course, there are going to be patients, there are going to be families that have, discrepancies or complaints. And back when I was 19, 20, 21, I was there handling, some of the most petty complaints here and there, just trivial that people had. But it gave me a good foundation of, how do I go through damage control? How do I make sure, I keep ourselves protected while also making sure that the problem's tackled and that the family realizes we care, our patient care is our top priority. And how do I make sure that we rectify the situation, and we want to make sure they're return customers again, and they only have something positive to say, even if something, went wrong during transport for whatever reason. So I do think, all those problems I used to solve on a really menial level did help translate into damage control and just helping our customers and bringing kind of a bright smile and face to our employees. Because I always remind them, you are the face of the company, not me. You are the ones out every day in these hospitals, in front of these nurses, in front of these patients. You are my marketing team. Not my social media posts, not my presentations. It's our boots on the ground. They're my marketers. And so instilling kind of that customer service in them too, and letting them know you're a brand, you represent us every day. I think that also helps mitigate problems from even happening.
And to interrupt John, I think that's probably one of the things that is a similarity with your agency, because, that's something that when we're out across the state talking with folks, preaching the EMS officer stuff, that it doesn't matter what your marketing background is, you are the marketing team, because you're who's taking care of that patient, you're who's the face of that company. So however you talk, what you look like, if you look like like you slept in your shirt for the last 5 weeks, or hey, is this a fresh clean polo? So, wow, it's pretty interesting. The more we talk, those similarities and the things that are similar.
Well, it's missing. Yeah. I mean, those are the type of things that there's a reason that type of topic is heavy in our officer or leadership stuff that we do, is because we have to address the things that are necessary, or maybe that are gaps inside of normal EMS management or leadership type classes. And to hear you say that, I was thinking back to when I heard Walter talking one time. I think he was actually teaching a class, and he was referencing Disney and their customer service model of stuff. And I hear a lot of Disney-like stuff coming from you, talking about how, where they call them cast members and stuff, but they're the marketing team, is a very interesting approach. And I really like that. That got my wheels turning in my head a little bit on that. But Walter, you know what I'm talking about on that Disney thing. Could you hear the Disney reference in that?
I could, and I like the way that she said that. You are the marketing team, because I say, you drive that great big billboard around. That's your marketing, and when you are, when they're out on the street, you're not there with them. They're contacting the patient first, not you. You may have a telephone conversation with them, but that's it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you
Yep.
find that your folks are receptive to that sort of? I mean, because I've never been managed that way where they basically said that. I don't know if any of you other guys have, but do you find it to be receptive among the workforce?
I do. I think we really instill, like, take pride in what you're doing. And I mean, if you're not loving, and I always have a mindset of, if someone's not happy here, like someone's mentioned on an earlier podcast, go be somewhere that you're happy. Go to an agency that makes you happy. If for whatever reason North State is not your landing spot, I completely understand. A lot of counties, agencies, they say North State's a stepping stone agency. You go there, get some patient contact, get comfortable, and then they're gone. And so just making sure that, and actually, to talk about, our colors are purple and orange, and all the time people are like, "Are y'all Clemson fans? Is this like a FedEx transport thing?" And of course it's not. But our owners, they pick purple and orange for the simple reason of wanting to be the bright part of a patient's day, because this week we go to Chicago, Florida, and Alabama for transfers. And so these patients, obviously, if they're in an ambulance, it is not their best day. They're not having a great time, not a good time. And so just, again, instilling in all of our providers, when these patients are with you, they're not at their best. Obviously, they most likely don't want to be there. So let's make sure that their experience with North State is a good one, a positive one, no matter what it is, as much as we can make it, at least.
That's a long transport going those distances. And
Yeah.
So just, as a quick rabbit to chase, what are some challenges? I've never lived that life, and most people may or may not, but what are some challenges that distance transfer, as that administrator or as that agency person? What are some challenges that you have with that?
So operationally, it's terrifying. Just something very small as, okay, we're going on a 13-hour one-way transfer. What if there's a mechanical failure with our ambulance? Something as simple as that, which obviously happens, not regularly, but it happens to agencies. And when they're, we don't operate on accounting. So when we have those type of issues, it's tedious to try and figure out. And so in those situations, we arrange along the route of those transfers other agencies in the states we pass through, so that they're aware that we are kind of going to be in their area at that time. If there's a situation, would they be able to accommodate? So it's kind of on their radar. And so but besides that, luckily the staff loves it, because it's, one way up with hopefully a good buddy, a good friend in the ambulance, and then you stay in a hotel wherever you got to, and then you come back. So luckily we're able to staff it, which I would think would be the main issue, but it's really more of a worry of, oh my gosh, is the ambulance going to be okay that far? So yeah. Yeah, and also we've had patients that have deteriorated when we didn't think they would, halfway to Chicago, halfway to Alabama, to Houston. And then when you divert, that becomes a whole kind of clinical operational mess, because we're not in our own state. So there's a few, issues with that.
So while we're talking about some unique challenges, some of the things that you had mentioned earlier, that whenever the pandemic started, that you were presented as a private agency with a unique challenge and found a very unique situation, I think, for a private EMS agency in the state of North Carolina. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So COVID hit, and I'm not sure about y'all, but I feel like since COVID hit, I've been in like a game of Jumanji involuntarily, because just anything and everything that could happen every month, I'm like, oh, that's new. But so when COVID started in March 2020, of course, I lost, I feel like 5% of my workforce immediately because they were just terrified. Maybe they had grandparents living in their homes. Maybe they had, maybe they were in school and didn't want to risk, being in these hospitals, getting COVID, and they couldn't go to school. And so being ALS and being BLS and just doing long distance transfers, our revenue and our volume actually decreased pretty quickly by 30% at the beginning of COVID, because hospitals across North Carolina needed their patients to stay where they were, because most hospitals were at census and couldn't bring in patients from rural hospitals, which is what we do. And so we definitely we were needed less than we were in previous years. And so we did have that big issue, but then come March 2021, we were presented with an awesome project and an awesome initiative, which we have been able to capitalize on, been successful, and it has added kind of a career, a projected pathway for North State to not be a stepping stone anymore. So we're able to offer something past just transports. It gives our paramedics, it gives our EMTs something to look forward to in the mobile integrated healthcare sector, where their scope is much different than on the ambulance, even with a 911 agency, because they're utilizing ultrasounds, they're doing infusions, we're doing point of care testing with the iStat. So while COVID was very hard on us, we were able to get through it, and we were able to get through it stronger. And so while it was hard, and I would never want to go back and go through it again, some good things came out of it.
Carlie, what counties do you do MIH for?
Well, so we have had patients in 9 of the central counties, because right now we're contracted with UNC Health. We are the paramedic piece of their hospital at home program. So the 4 hospitals that are contracted for are UNC Hillsborough, UNC Chapel Hill, Rex, and Rex Holly Springs. And we are able to take hospital at home patients any radius from 30 miles from all of those hospitals. Okay. So we have patients up in Person County. We have patients down in Johnson County, Alamance, Guilford, Wade, Durham, Orange, of course. And we've had Franklin as well. So we're kind of all over with the hospital at home patients.
Okay.
That's interesting. So I was just looking at some stuff, and not only are you our first guest that's in private, but you're also our first female guest. And I hear, and I mean, all of us have talked before about how on the side, folks are always interested in that perspective of things. And I was wondering if you take some time to sort of, give us a little bit of that girl power that out there I know you got.
Yeah. And so, and like I mentioned, luckily I love at North State, as far as our ambulance sector roster, we're 65% staff female. So you're right, girl power, I'm all about it. As far as kind of my perspective, when I first started, again, 1, I'm not clinical. 2, I'm a female in a very male dominant industry. I mean, I feel proud, especially with administration, I feel like probably 90%, if maybe 85, 90%, it's men. And so I definitely at first was very intimidated. And of course, naturally you feel like you got to do a lot more to kind of get the respect, especially since I didn't have that clinical background. So I kind of had 2 things. It was like, 1, you're female in this industry. 2, you don't have any idea. You have no idea what EMTs and paramedics do. And so it was very tough. And it has taken a long time. It took a lot of work, but I do feel like I broke through with a lot of agencies, just, with our reputation, being able to assist them. And so, yeah, there were, of course, some hardships I feel like that I would not have maybe faced, maybe as a man, but you just got to work hard, hustle, and I can do anything that any of you can do. So you got to have that attitude.
What type is that? So I was going to ask, so what would you say to someone coming in that maybe doesn't have maybe that drive, that same drive that you had? What would you say to someone that maybe are meeting those ceilings or meeting that resistance? Because you said you had to break through, and I don't feel like any of us felt like we had to break through anything. So to me, that's probably very unique to females in EMS. And I'll let the other guys mention that. That's just how I feel or how I see it. So what advice would you give to folks that are like, to break through? What would you say to them?
And I hate to frame it this way, but I really feel like you got to be aggressive. you gotta be direct, you gotta be blunt, you gotta make sure like you have a goal and you're clear with it, and you're direct with everything you say, and you're confident in what you're doing because you know what you're doing. I mean, well, you got to know that too. You got to be confident that what you're doing is correct. And once you realize that and you're actually doing it correct, you just can't fake it. And then just, keep pushing the initiative and prove yourself. It's one thing to, talk, but once you prove yourself, and has it taken me 10 years? Probably. But once you get past that, I feel like I'm on an even playing field now. So again, it's just hustle, don't give up, and just, stay focused, be aggressive.
Carlie, if you could go back in time to young Carlie as you're coming in, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of that, with this, what I expect, but is that the advice that you would give to that Carlie 10 years ago? Just be tenacious, or, I mean, for those young listeners, those people who are just getting started, and maybe they look at you and say, man, I could be her one day. What advice would you say to those young folks?
Yeah. So I was very timid at first. I was very intimidated. Again, I'm at these leadership conferences, Wilmington, Asheville. I'm 23. I'm 24. I don't talk to anybody because I'm like, I don't even know what I would talk to them about. So
monitors.
I think
you'd want to talk about monitors.
No, we don't. We can now. 10 years ago? Oh my gosh. So one, know what you're talking about or shut up, right? Oh my God. Right. So, but I was very reserved. I stuck to myself the first few years because I was too intimidated to speak. Because I mean, all of you have been in the industry, 10, 20, 30 years, they're EMS directors, they're this or that. And here's, Stewart's daughter. Oh, look at her. She's trying so hard. So again, I think if I could have changed things done things differently, I would have, been a hustler from the beginning and, not been intimidated by everyone. It's like, we're all here for the same goal. We want the state of North Carolina to do better. How can I do better? And how can I learn from all these guys instead of just, hiding and thinking, they want no conversation, anything like that from me. So, yeah.
We do all just want to be big rock stars, so that's probably a pretty good. Yeah.
Another Nickelback.
You took it right from me, Mark.
It's the greatest rock and roll band of all time, but whatever.
Second to like 18 other bands. Yes.
Sounds like a Gen X boomer thing. I don't know, Terrence.
It does sound really boomer.
You keep tossing this boomer thing at me. I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't care for it. Let's see. They won People's Choice Award, 2 American Music Awards, 6 Billboard Music Awards.
Elvis did all of that like in his 68 special.
12 Juno Awards, and those do count. 6 Grammy nominations.
It's bad that you're even searching for this, just so you know.
I don't have to search. I just have it up for the haters. All right, back to Carlie. All right.
I just learned a lot. I didn't know that about them. So
you still didn't learn anything. Carlie, who's your favorite rock band?
Yeah. What's your favorite musical act, or who do you think is the best rock and roll band?
No, it's too hard.
Oh no, I was gonna say rock. Well, I'm a 90s baby.
That's okay. You can say Pearl Jam.
Is Red Hot Chili Peppers rock?
They are.
Okay, well that would be mine.
That's my wife's favorite.
Oh, I'm sure she's great. Sounds amazing.
We were just thinking that
that would be mine.
That's one of those 18 above Nickelback in that list.
Yeah, they're on the oldies channel now, I think. But
oh my gosh. Yeah. So yes, now overall Britney Spears, I'm that girl, but for rock we'll say Red Hot Chili Peppers.
All right. That's cool. As long as we stay in sync.
I can support that. Harry's in shock.
Realism does that. Where do you see, Carlie, the EMS industry going? You're sounds like to me you're in the driver's seat, because being private, you're not relegated to that box. Any of those boxes the rest of us may find ourselves in, it doesn't sound like you have that box up there. And I'm assuming North State comes from the fact that it's North Carolina. and that's what we call us the old North State. So that's where that comes from. So do you see yourselves as bounded by North Carolina, or do you think you may go? And that's a two-part question. That's the first one is, do you see that boundary? And the second one is, where do you see EMS from your driver's seat looking forward?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, because we've, Virginia and South Carolina, we've had, over the years, not anytime recently, but had that initiative and to be able to assist those states. But you're right, the brand is straight up North Carolina. So we would have to rebrand if we wanted to go outside of North Carolina, which is absolutely a possibility. So I see the state. So right now, I feel like community paramedicine and mobile integrated healthcare, that a lot of agencies were trying to get going before COVID. They kind of had to take a back seat to a lot of agencies across the state due to 911 being the priority. Obviously, if you have 4 CPs running, but you're down 911 trucks, those CPs most likely need to assist, get on those ambulances and help out. Obviously, we're not out of the staffing crisis, and I don't think we're close to being out of it. I think it's going to take a little bit. But as far as when everything kind of stabilizes, I do see the counties getting back at that CP, other CP initiatives, making, the opioid crisis, I know, is one of the huge initiatives that a lot of our counties are trying to tackle. But again, it's kind of had to take a back seat. So I do feel like the 911 sector, of course, will remain strong in North Carolina, but I do see the mobile integrated healthcare and just trying to keep people out of those brick and mortar hospitals. That's our initiative, EMS, because of course the hospitals are having staffing shortages. While they might have an 800-bed hospital, they might not have the nurses to support all those beds. And so our initiative, while people thought, oh, hospital at home, it's just a COVID thing. When COVID's over, it's done. No, this is something to help alleviate the hospital capacity to make sure when EMS brings somebody in, there's less wall time, there's more beds open. And so I'm hoping, just as a state, a lot of the counties, other agencies step up and let's figure out, let's get creative and innovative. How can we keep people out of those brick and mortars? How can we keep them, in their homes, or what have you, with the CP, whether they're checking them in to make sure they're not readmitted into the hospitals, so we can keep the hospitals open for true emergencies and people that need to be there. So I really think North Carolina will be back to those huge initiatives once staffing and everything settles out.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have a foot in the door for telehealth with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what our whole initiative is with hospital at home. Every day at 8 a.m., Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, we have virtual rounds with 10 hospitalists, and it's really every day, 24/7. We have patients that are being monitored. Just it's all virtually in their own homes, but it's a hospital. So they're considered inpatient. So there's a lot of different initiatives and creativity that can go into MIH, whether it's ED at home, whether it's CP, whether it's just making sure we're catching those frequent flyers at home and making sure they're not taking up 911's valuable time. Because again, with the lower staffing, you need to make sure as many units are available for critical scenarios.
Hey, Carlie, you brought up that y'all, we're in this staffing crisis. Is North State in a staffing crisis? And if so, how are y'all handling that situation?
Yeah, so, we are located right in Raleigh. So we are in the middle of Wake County. Could not be. Now, of course, it is regionally great for our services provided, but it's tough when you have, Orange, Durham, Wake, Johnson right there, and they're paying way more than what our ambulance sector is paying. And so I would not say we have a crisis anymore. When I look back to our pre-COVID ambulance staffing levels, we were running probably 16 to 17 ambulances a day before COVID, and right now we're doing on average 12 to 13. And so we are inching back slowly to where we were. And so I wouldn't say a crisis, but we absolutely still have some ground to make up from before COVID. Luckily, the mobile integrated healthcare sector does stay staffed pretty well, because it does pay more than our ambulance sector, because it requires more credentialing and experience. But hopefully we will stay strong and get through.
Okay.
So we just a few weeks ago we finished up session 1 of our North Carolina EMS Leadership Academy, and we will be sending folks out in the next few weeks to be mentored. Would you or your agency be interested in taking on somebody in there to at least give them some guidance along the way?
Of course.
And if so, could you share your contact information and maybe they could reach out, because I think there's people out there that may have an interest in that.
Absolutely. So, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn is where I get a lot of questions. So you can search Carlie Dodson on my LinkedIn, or you can always call me directly. Call North State directly and just hit my line. So that would be 919-261-8911. And then there's a button for Carlie and it come right to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Carlie, I think I've heard that you spoke somewhere recently, spoke at a conference.
I did. So North State brought myself and my MIH director, Ashley Nelson, and 6 of our North State medic graduates down to New Orleans for their graduation gift. And while I was there, I was able to present at the Mobile Integrated Healthcare Summit about harnessing the power of interprofessional relationships.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there will be plenty more in 2024. So
Graduation gifts.
Oh.
That's a pretty good perk for an
again,
employer
being
to
in
do.
Wake County, I gotta throw some fun things out. So that was one of them.
Just for the record, I've graduated like 4 times.
No New Orleans trips.
I mean,
No.
Vance Granville Community College trips, but that's
Hey, he did get to go to DC one time.
for his GED. Yeah.
Hey, Carlie, before John asks you this question, I've got to ask it. Who's your best friend?
Well, I feel like this is such a corny answer, but it's true. My husband, Josh, would be my best friend.
That's weird because my
I feel like
second
that's
best
not
friend.
the answers you usually get.
Yeah,
is
my
he
second best
standing-
friend
is
says
he
the same
standing
thing.
there with you right now?
He's
Yeah,
probably right
He is-
across from her.
it's
He's probably
okay.
right across from her.
I got
Blink
it.
twice if you're okay, Carlie. We'll call somebody.
We're good. No. Someone had to be home with the kids, so I'm here.
That's some more of that girl power.
Yeah.
Right. 2023, we're doing it.
Doesn't Keith say the same thing? His best friend is his spouse.
I haven't heard him say that.